Thank you, everybody. Thanks for joining. Thanks for sticking around for the dinner. We have a great session today featuring three C-suite, three of our top partners who are going to share some of their best practices and insights about how they are engaging with the brand marketing community. We'd love for you to each introduce yourself and maybe just a very quick elevator pitch about what you do and what differentiates you. Sure. Push.
There we go. Thank you. Hi, my name is Kargman. I am the founder and CEO of Kargo. Started the company in 2003, so this is actually our 20th anniversary. Focused on high-impact advertising. We started out in mobile, but through a number of acquisitions over COVID, we're now leaning very deeply into CTV, which will probably be a bigger part of our business come 2 years from now. Video player, we're actually helping black and brown publishers through a content management system that we're actually giving them. So huge scale actually in terms of building new publishing opportunities for underrepresented audiences on publishing. We've about 550 folks globally, offices across North America as well as across Europe and now Asia as well. And have been, I think, my infamous fact is I was one of maybe top or earliest three companies that bet on brand innovators when Marc and Brendan were just doing small dinners with probably 4 or 5 folks and trying to build the organization from the ground up.
So 10 or 15, but right.
Yeah, 10 or 15. Some of them were pretty small.
Hi everyone, I'm Kelle Coleman. There we go. Learn from me and still mess up. Hi everyone, I'm Kelle Coleman. I lead strategic partnerships and experiences at Nielsen. I think most folks are familiar with Nielsen. We have 3 businesses that span across our Grace and Only Metadata, our portfolio business, and our audience measurement business. So happy to be here.
I'm DeSalvo. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer at Undertone, and we have a portfolio of products across a number of different platforms, CTV, video, display, also in the high-impact space, and we try to look at everything through the lens of the creative and how that creative is resonating from an emotional standpoint with the consumers that are looking at it. We do that in a number of different ways. We'll talk about some of them.
Fabulous, thank you. So, first question would be, how do you guys go about new business developments? In other words, how do you meet brand marketers? They don't tend to get out a lot.
Well, this is certainly one of the vehicles that we use from a marketing standpoint. We look at all the tentpole events that Brand Innovators has across the country and the world for that matter with Cannes as well. That is a big part of it, but we also look at a couple of other different event structures that have been successful for us that bring brand marketers to the table as well. Then we kind of have the 3-pronged approach of these types of events. We look at the large conferences, and we have a presence at those, especially in the commerce space now. That's a big area that we're growing in. And then that 3rd prong is events that we do ourselves. So we'll do thought leader and content events across the country. We'll go to a nice restaurant, we'll rent out a private room, we'll get 10 or 12 brand marketers in the room, and we'll talk about new products or new initiatives that we're launching, new tech that we might be going in the field with and getting their opinions on it and how it might resonate with them and their products and their category. So those are really the ways that we do it.
For us, similar to that, I'd also just add that we also engage a lot of industry bodies. So they're a big part of us connecting and engaging with clients. So from the ANA and the 4As and others like that. But we use Brand Innovators and leverage their communities a lot for those smaller targeted engagements. Then we also host our own, whether those are webinars or in-person events that happen, and then the large-scale tempos that everyone is aware of.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that it's really difficult to engage with marketers. There's so many different different opportunity solutions, and the reality is most of them use exactly identical language, even though the products and solutions are probably pretty different. And that's the hardest part, is that if you're a brand marketer and you're not steeped in ad tech or technology or databases or capabilities, then you read sort of broad headlines in Ad Week and Ad Age about, the death of the cookie, and there's 50 companies being like, we have like this cookieless solution that's going to be transformative for what you're doing, and everybody sounds exactly the same, even though there probably are high differences or significant differences between the different capabilities and solutions. And so figuring out how to have those intimate conversations, Brand Innovators is, I think, one of those great places where you can spend the time to say, hey, yeah, I know what my competitor's doing, and if you're really honest, what people want is, how do we vet and transform sort of the marketing practice to understand, I'm going to use this solution for this particular purpose, I'm going to use that solution, being honest about what you do and what others do. That's the thing, but the only way to do that is to actually have the time, and time is the hardest commodity to get. And so between Brand Innovators, which I think has been a critically important way for us to find time with marketers, there's a number of other conferences, anything from CES to Cannes to Patau to ANA, where you're also getting time. And then the question is also how much of the strategy is actually set at the agency, and finding time with the agencies to educate them and set the right tone with the agency partnerships so that they can actually do education on your behalf as well. So that's the mix. The bigger bets are, do you invest in the new fronts or upfronts and do something significant there? Do you invest in your own conference? And can you pull enough people to your own conference? Do you invest in creating video series, and so people can trip across what you're actually creating? But again, the ROI on that is so uncertain, I think, from that. So you can put out this content, but if nobody sees it, then you just spent a huge amount of time and money trying to get that to market. So then you have to have ways to get it out there. So that's the gamut. But if you guys have other ideas of what's worked, we'd love to hear from you guys.
Fantastic. So in that same vein, what would the KPIs be that you're looking for, A, and B, how do you strike that righteous balance between something like Cannes or CES and some of the more intimate gatherings that are out there?
I mean, one of the quick questions that I always have when I meet with new clients or potentially new clients is like, have you heard of us and do you know what we do? That, if you think about the marketing funnel, that's where it starts. Like, have you done enough work out there to actually put your brand out there? Do people know? Have they heard of Kargo? Big question. And then two, if they have heard of us, do they know what we do well or differentiated from our competitors or other solutions in market? And so those are the two high-level questions I think you have to lean into. And so then from a brand recognition perspective, what are the kinds of investments or things that you're doing? For us, we made a huge bet on Cannes this year. We did this crazy drone show. Some of you may have seen it in the sky. People are like, I don't know what that company does, but I actually seen the logo. So that starts that brand recognition question. And then the question is, how do they become more familiar with what you actually do?
Yeah, I think all of those things, in addition to, we look at using these places and platforms, is like, what do we want to get out of it? Is it about sales enablement? Is it about helping the sales team build pipeline? Then we set aside KPIs that are associated with that. If it's around leadership or it's around amplification of our brand, then we take a look at what KPIs that would draw that to show if this created impact or not. Those tend to be a little looser, but asking the questions of for us, our brand generally people know it is about where and how do they use our brand, and so how can we enable them to continue to use our brand in that way? Those are some of the questions I would ask.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of all of those things. In addition to, we try to do our homework before we go to the event. We look at the attendee list. We see who we really want to meet with and spend time with when we get to that event. I'll strategically bring a certain salesperson with me because I know that they have, 10 clients that are on that list, and we could possibly have engaging conversations that are going to lead to additional meetings and additional opportunities. And I think Harry made a great point earlier. All that's great when we talk to the brand marketers, but at the end of the day, a lot of us are getting our business from the agency. So we need to make sure that we make that connection and we get the right people to be talking to at the agency, if we're not already, from that brand marketer. Who do you want us talking to? Who's the right person at your agency for us to bring our message to? And then, typical of some other people in some panels earlier said, then we start tracking it, right? We have the opportunity in Salesforce. We have a drop-down menu of every event that we're going to so that we can match the event to the opportunity and say, okay, you know what, the Super Bowl event for Brand Innovators brought in 10 opportunities this year, and we closed 6 of them, or we closed 3 of them, or we closed 2 of them. So we can actually look at every so we can actually look at every one of the events that we sponsor or have a part in, and bring some very specific ROI back on how much we actually drove from that event based on the meetings, the follow-up meetings, the RFPs we drive the business, that comes out of it.
Yeah, so attribution is important. You're tracking leads and getting them through the sales funnel, hopefully to closure. All right, so speaking of specific brands and aligning with events, there's been a big trend in the past several years in B2B sales towards account-based marketing. ABM, are you doing that? Are you targeting specific? We want to get into a Ford Motor Company, but we can't get McDonald's will return our calls. Do you have target accounts?
We absolutely do, yeah. I mean, there's target accounts, not only from a category standpoint, but then geographically. So our sales team is set up mostly from a geographic standpoint, and they call on, specific lists within those territories. But absolutely, there's target lists, there's strategies that are put against each one of them to try to get to the right people.
Our commercial team, from a marketing standpoint, our commercial team is set up that way, so we support them in how we do it. Marketing is not set up in that way, but so we are constantly thinking about their target list, who they want. We work with you guys, like who's going to be in the room, what are the clients that we want in the room. Those are questions that we ask our sales teams ahead of us planning, so that we have something at least quarter by quarter, so that we have something to go off, so that when we have conversations with brand innovators and platforms like yours, we're able to make some educated but focused list around who we want in the room.
Makes total sense. So if at one end of the spectrum is ABM, and the other end is that branding, spending a lot of money on drones, which was very impressive. Everybody was talking about it when I said
Nightmare.
we're going to get permission from the president of France.
His chief of staff had to send an email to the mayor of Cannes who didn't want to do it.
Right. So on the branding end, I was having this conversation with Babs a little bit earlier today about, my background is print. I started off a long time ago at Variety, Hollywood Reporter. I sold full-page print ads. And back in the day, people spent a lot of money on print ads. The trades used to be this thick. Remember, we look forward to them. We'd go through them. We'd take them home. We'd read them on the train. And I'm not here to say anything negative about trades, but is anybody buying like full-page print ads anymore? Does that still work? Or digital ads? Any value in brand?
I hope they keep buying digital ads.
Forgive me. I think
you raise a good point, which is most of us here lean into that one-to-one connection between us and the brand. You were talking about, is there specific, I call it like whales, like here's the 20 accounts that should be working with us, either turn them on, or if they're working on a small way, what should be bigger? And it's like, between our products capabilities, like this is a no-brainer. You sort of know it. You're like, how is it possible that we're not working more tightly, closely at a bigger level with specific brands? And then the question is, how do you unlock that? There's something, either relationship and knowledge of solutions or capabilities that's missing, or they're working with a competitor and they're not going to sort of be unseated. But I think the bottom line is most who those brands are that probably are a great fit, and then the question is, how do you find the right touch points to convince them to give you a test or a trial, and then how do you sort of convert that into a larger ongoing relationship? But to your point, there is so much that I think all of us probably don't touch does it work to run, advertising in LinkedIn, or we do a little bit at some level of scale, but is there more value there? Is there more value inside of running Instagram ads, potentially, if you get them from if you have the right messaging, the right video in front of, using digital ourselves as digital natives to actually drive that appreciation of solutions and capabilities. And I think whether you're running an ad week or ad age, the trades, is there a different unlock? And I think all of us, probably everybody in the room, asks, what should we be doing that we're not doing that would give an edge that could unlock and open up a conversation that effectively we're not opening up.
We have that conversation literally every day. I think I had it this morning, and I think part of it also working at a global company, it's like where and how do you unlock that for that market?
Yeah.
And for those particular clients is another question that we're constantly talking through. We do a mix of both, I own the one-to-one and the events and the experience and the partnership channel, but we still do digital and buying in that way as well to supplement it. And the best work is where those things are working together in the marketplace.
I love that you use the word experience. That's the first time I've actually heard it all day. But people say, what is Brand Innovators? I say, we are in the B2B experiential marketing business. Yeah, that's what we do, right? We're creating these robust experiences for brand marketers, obviously producing a lot of content, conferences, events, and we have VIP experiences, ball games, boat rides, dinners, etc. I will have the last word on this topic. I'm just going to reach into my pocket, which is, again, when people say, how did it go today? I just reach into this is my ROI from this morning. Okay, I'm just saying, that there's nothing like, I think, the in-person, experience and conference and events. But one last word on experiences is, have any of you ever booked a boat in Canton? Was there an ROI on that?
We haven't gotten the boat yet.
We've rejected the boat. And I was sort of laughing. I don't know.
You bought a house instead.
Well, we do our Monday thing at the Bellroo's, which is like a boat, and that has been an extraordinarily valuable ROI for us. But who's in Canton this year? A few of you guys. So I laugh because I've been presented every year with a boat. It's basically like anywhere between 500 to 700,000 for the week. Then you got to pay the Canton Lions for dockage to be able to get there. You've got to have signage, and there's all this stuff. And the city of Canton shut down. The whole point of the boat is between probably 11:30 p.m. to like 4 a.m. in the morning. Like, you're going to get all of your work meetings done. You can like pull people, talk to them, and it's about like, what DJ did you get on the boat? They shut it down at like midnight. So all those people that were on the boat that spent that 700,000, because every year in the past has been about getting the people to your event. When they shut it down, I started talking to friends that didn't like, this is so effed, because all of our ROI is late night, and it's basically down the toilet. So be careful with the boat in Canada. It hasn't, I think it's gotten way worse, and now with the no parties at night, forget it. It's like 0.00 ROI.
Yeah, well, I will say Nielsen has had a yacht for a long time. We actually modeled a lot of our presence when we first started going to Cannes about 10, 11 years ago after PwC. They were a great partner in sharing some of their best practices around that. I will say we tend to not lean into the late night parties because of that, but I kind of look at our strategy at Cannes as one, like, let's have the anchor, because the boat gives us the flexibility of meetings and other things, and then we encourage our sales teams to go out to where the ragers and parties are going, because those things we can't do because of that, but also, we know our sales needs to be where the clients are, and so that's kind of how we strategically approach it.
Got it. Okay.
It's very hard to pull people, and I'll put a plug in for Brand Innovators. Brand Innovators has done a great job pulling people when it is so hard. Unless you actually have like a cornerstone that people are used to and you build for many, many, many years, like our Monday lunch. the only reason that we get the people is somebody comes one year, like, oh, this is great, I'm gonna come next year. And then you get them to come back because they have a great experience. And unless you have one of those cornerstones, getting people in is literally impossible. And so the fact that Brand Innovators has these cornerstones that actually get the marketers there, I mean, that is rare in terms of because it's hard to do. And so it creates an opportunity for folks like the folks in the room to actually be elbow to elbow with the key decision makers. And so I think congratulations on pulling off something that it's not easy.
I will say for that is part of the reason from our strategy is that we don't lean into, supplementing the late night parties, but we do lean into the partnership. So a part of our strategy is leaning into Brand Innovators and other partners across to have our brand and our sales teams around and out and about in various ways outside of just in our space.
Yeah, I would agree with that. That's one of the reasons why we have the partnerships we do in the experience space. I like that because that's what we say all the time. We're trying to provide, we're providing experiences from a marketing team standpoint and from an entertainment standpoint. I mean, obviously for our companies, T&E is a huge part of it. Relationships are everything, and we're trying to do as many unique things in that space as well. But we really lean into these event marketing sponsorships with Brand Innovators and with a couple of others that we look at in different ways and get different ROIs out of. But it's just really, it's paid off for us. We've been able to prove the ROI, and honestly, going back to your question earlier, it's been proven out so much more than doing something like an ad, a digital ad, or doing something in LinkedIn or doing a page in Ad Age. We've proven it, and we're going to keep leaning into it.
Yep. Thank you for the feedback there. Okay, last question, and we'll open it up to the audience. And our theme today is do it better in 2024. And also, some of us have been spending a lot of time out at the U.S. Open. You can't help but, like, when you see the greatest tennis talent in the world, think about how hard they work at their game. Oh my gosh, how much practice and how much energy, and they're always trying to improve and get better. That's really what tennis is, right? And so what are you doing about doing it better next year?
Yeah, we have an interesting approach that we're looking at next year through right now, or the lens that we're looking at it through. Our Undertone is owned by a parent company that's in Israel called Perion, and Perion is really trying to make a much bigger mark. They're not as well known here in the United States. There are 5 other companies under the umbrella, and we're kind of looking at this really dual approach next year of Undertone still doing everything that it does from a marketing standpoint, from an event standpoint, but really incorporating Perion in the overall big company picture and how all of the business units within work together and ways that we can be even stronger in the marketplace as a unified front versus siloed companies under the Perion name. So that's what we're looking at now. So that's hopefully going to be bigger budgets next year and more opportunities for us to do bigger things. So we're looking at some of the tentpoles that we've been involved in the past, the CESs, the Cannes, and doing bigger things that we've done in the past. So all preliminary planning stages now, but definitely some cool ideas coming across the table. Love it.
Yeah, I think for us, we're very much in planning right now, thinking about where we need to be, what are the must-haves and what are the nice-to-haves. I think part of this in going into 2024, we're thinking about those smaller community engagements, probably a little bit more than the industry temples. Clearly, there are this, like you mentioned, the CESs for us, NAB, Cannes Lions, are some of the main stakeholders that we will continue to still be at. But we're looking at ways and how we can engage with Brand Innovators differently, and or with some of the other players out there very differently. So thinking about those one-to-one, those small gatherings, summits, some of them will stand up on our own, some of them will work and continue to lean into our partners to help us.
So we're a global company, but really the vast majority of our revenues is earned in North America. So we're really looking to become much more global in terms of distribution of revenues. And so we'll do a lot more marketing, I think, in different territories across the globe. We also think that there's a lot of value, to your point, about dollars that exist in smaller local markets. And so we've done, I think, a good job in terms of spending a lot of money in Cannes and CES and others. But I think if we can own smaller markets and do bigger deals and be a bigger player in smaller markets, there's actually a lot of dollars there that are on the table. But I think, given the growth of this year, our marketing budgets will go up. We're making more bets on sort of the growth of the brand, like what we did last year in Cannes. We pulled it off at the very last minute. I think with more planning, we can go much bigger in terms of the visibility of the brand there and other places. And so I think we've got a pretty good formula because we've had really strong growth this year. We want to double down on that formula, and then we want to deploy our resources to actually be more global and more distributed than we are today.
I love it. So what I'm hearing is a lot more investing across the board, and that sounds great for the industry, great.
As long as you track ROI.
I'd like to open it up to the studio audience. Anybody have any questions for distinguished speakers? Yes, please. Name and comment.
Sam from TeamSnap. I always find it really easy to think of strategy returns to add into our mix, but it's always harder to cut things, right? So I'm curious if you have any examples of channels or strategies that you've tried that you've cut out of your marketing mix.
For cutting, because we have to, do some prioritization exercises this year. A lot of it I leaned into in being a partner with our commercial team. So as we think about their priority markets is where I put my focus in, or our narrative. So if we're going big and making big bets in retail media, then we're going to make a big bet there from an event or partnership, activation, whatever experience. But that something's going to have to come off of that list. Those are the kind of exercises. So working very closely with the commercial team and the product team, quite frankly, to understand what are products that we're launching, releases, the roadmap, what are the stories that we're trying to tell, and then how can we figure out if an engagement in this channel of creating an experience on our own or infusing our brand into another experience is going to matter. So it's a big prioritization exercise that consistently has to happen.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mentioned earlier, we got really big into retail media, the commerce space this year, and there's a couple of big trade shows that we decided were a huge part of what we needed to do, and they were big price tags along with them. So with that, there had to be a very strategic paring down and cutting of some things that have been pretty consistent for us, but we just had to go through the prioritization process and say, you know what, that's been good for us, but it hasn't been as good as some of these other things, so unfortunately we're not going to be able to do that one this year. So we definitely, it's so much harder to cut it than to add things for sure. We're like, wait, come on, you guys can just give us the extra money to keep doing all of it, right? But we had to do that prioritization as well.
I'll also add in that exercise is about resources too. So, if there's limited resources of people that can actually do the work it takes to stand up these experiences, that also plays into that prioritization. So it all has to align, and you kind of have to keep evaluating it quarter by quarter to make sure that it is still tracking, because what you don't want to do is put all of this investment into this event that commercial isn't bought into, and quite frankly, the company isn't bought in, because now the investment is not great. It's not a good look.
Yeah, if you can't execute well against something that you're spending money against, you gotta cut it. And so that's the big thing. So as you get spread too thin, as you start to do things overseas, you have to make sure that whatever you're investing in, you can extract the value that you want. So if there's not enough resources to actually make it and have the follow-up and people attending, you gotta cut it. I can give you a specific example. We used to own the Wi-Fi sponsorship at Adweek and at Advertising Week. There's been obviously a lot of changes when they were in Times Square and they were at the Time Center and everybody showed up. I love the whole Advertising Week team, but it's been hard for us to justify that. We send people, but we used to have a sponsor at IBALM, but again, not as many marketers go, it's more publishers, et cetera. They are our partners. But again, do we want to actually invest in and spend money on sponsorship versus just showing up? And I think that's the big question for the room is like, what really deserves sponsorship per se versus basically just saying, listen, we're going to buy a ton of tickets and try to negotiate like a group discount for a set of 5 tickets and just send people and have them, do their own dinner or take a couple people out for massages or mani-pedi or just even set up those meetings ahead of time. And if you can't get enough people to show up to that, cut it.
Yeah, definitely around where the commercial team or whoever needs to go is very different from where the brand and where Nielsen needs to show up. So that constant evaluation and hedging your bets on the audiences, the target companies. Those are the things that I'm looking to invest our marketing dollars in. If there are a ton of experience, there are a ton of events happening, we don't always have to show up with our brand at every single one.
One last question, Mike Ford. CEO of Skydio.
I'm Mike from Skydio. I did the boat and bring Innovators. Revenue doubled the next month, so there's a plug. So the question I had is, so we specialize in B2B data as well as consumer data, and so we see a lot of SaaS companies who are targeting accounts graph data, which is our account-based marketing data, through their DSPs, through digital. Ad tech companies like the ones here seem to be doing more events than digital marketing. Do you load your CRM list into Kargo, Publishers, or Undertone and target your lists online? Or is it just kind of Google and LinkedIn?
No, we definitely do that. We definitely upload the lists into CRM and target them, and we have the sales team vet it and make sure that it's, we tier them. So we'll tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 them on what we feel like is the biggest opportunities. But yeah, we absolutely get them into the CRM as quickly as we can after an event.
I think he's asking, okay, they're sitting in Salesforce, it's all loaded up. Now do you actually figure out a strategy to find those people at home or digitally?
We're trying to advertise to them.
Show video of their personal,
Yeah, we haven't done that yet from an actual advertising message, like an Undertone advertising message to them. We haven't gone that far. Quite frankly, we just haven't had the budgets to do. We've had to be strategic with where we've decided the most important places to spend the budget from an advertising standpoint is, and we felt like it's investing in things like this instead of marketing messages out to those lists. But it's certainly, if I could check all the boxes, that would be something we'd be doing tomorrow.
I think, we've taken a hard look at that. I think the hard part, and again, it's funny because it's my product, so it's like how much you put your money where your mouth is. I think it's really about the precision and the real challenge, I think, fundamentally is we know with consumer packaged goods or with just consumer products that you can reach a much broader audience. Everybody's in the market pretty much for a car. I mean, with few exceptions, living in cities, or students, you're in the market for a car at some point, right? For us, there's probably no more than, call it 25,000 people in the world that really matter to us, or maybe it's 50,000 people in the world that are the key decision makers. So what's the level of granularity when you see 100 billion impressions a month to actually find those exact 50,000 people without, it's that classic adage, I'm gonna market to the entire market, and I know that half my marketing budget works, the other half, and then the sort of punchline is, but I just don't know which half works. In this particular case, you know that if you start to run at scale, probably only 1% of your marketing budget works, just because of the level of granularity of data. And so the question is, can you really get certainty that you're reaching that clear 1% or less than 1% if you turn it on? And so it's a great opportunity to see how good your data science is and to see the level of precision that you can target. But if you could pull it off, it would be extraordinarily valuable.
We're going to geofence Lambert's for South by. And anybody who wants to talk to that audience, free for anybody in the room.
Okay, well, that speakers today. I want to thank the Brand Innovators team. I want to thank our entire staff, sales team, customer success. And Paul Dooley, thank you so much. Our host today from AWS. Your service is amazing.